Today we're going to take a look at pruning, several different examples where we lift up the lower branches on various tree varieties. Oftentimes that opens up the view a little bit more, those lower hanging branches. We get used to it, and once they're lifted up, it really changes the effect and the look of our gardens. I've already gotten started pruning our first tree, one of the Japanese tree lilac varieties. Now, unfortunately, I lost the tag on this one, but I believe it's either Golden Eclipse or Chantilly Lace. Maybe a viewer out there can confirm this, but it's got a wonderful variegated foliage that you can see here with that yellowish green. One of the main reasons I like to lift up the lower branches on this species is due to that interesting branch structure. You'll notice here I'm not making this completely symmetrical. I think it's one of the great reasons to grow the Japanese lilacs. They've got almost a bonsai feel to them. Here's another example of a group of 3 lilacs. They had a lot of lower branches, giving them that shrubby look. Now that's okay, it's personal preference, but I enjoy them most when that ornamental branching is exposed. We'll be taking a look at one more clump Japanese lilac in just a moment. That's an amber gold arborvitae off to the right, by the way. I've got a separate video on how we corrected that winter damage. We got it looking pretty good actually. But first we'll be pruning some branches on a Gotelli Serbian spruce. One of my absolute favorite trees, but I guess I say that about a lot of trees. Now, as much as I can, I always try to maintain the spruce tree's natural form. So I'm only going to take a few of the lower branches here so we can open up a little extra light for this motherlode golden yellow juniper here. We're also starting to lose our primary pathway here, and it's starting to encroach on the edging on the other side. The nice thing about rock edging is how easy it is to move. You can expand that bed, give our plants a little bit more room. If you're interested in a little bit closer look at the Serbian spruce group, a card will flash across the top. I'll also be showing that in the description box. And now let's take a quick look at that other Japanese tree lilac, a clump form. Some suckering is common on this variety, which is quickly removed if you stay on top of them each year. If you want a more upright form of this tree, ivory silk is a common variety sold. But if you want that wider plant where you can really highlight that branch structure, go with the straight species, Syringa reticulata. As I begin lifting up these lower branches, I've got a good example here of what's called a crossing branch and what can happen when you let a branch go too long. How these have grown together. You can see the tree has actually calloused itself off, and now what can happen over time, since we have reduced vascular tissue mainly on this back branch, that probably at some point it could die out. The Japanese tree lilac and the various varieties, they're so showy this time of the year. Considered blooming one of the later lilacs. We're almost into end of June here, just knocking on the door of the first part of July. Look at those blooms. As we clip through here, I'm also removing quite a few little dead stems. And nothing to worry about with that. Just a very, very common thing in this tree as it begins to shade out some of those lower tender stems or twigs. They just drop their leaves. Some of these stems that are about 1/4 inch, that's where we're going to start removing them and leaving most of the main branches, and that's what's going to create that trunkage over time. As I mentioned, we're going to get a beautiful canopy spread here, pushing, boy, I'm going to say eventually this tree, hopefully 25 feet wide, maybe even a little wider, that crossing branch. So I think I am going to go ahead and just get that out of there. Here's a little close-up of that wound. Over time, as that branch moves in the wind, completely smooth. How it's done that, interesting. Our Japanese tree lilac's just starting to bloom. That's going to be very, very showy for the next, 2 to 3 weeks. And I like how that turned out. All right, we've got 3 bigger trees that we've got quite a bit of the lower branches we're going to prune off. I'm pretty sure this is a Prairie Spire green ash. Not positive. It's a seedless variety. I did a video on this one where we pruned off quite a few lower branches, but boy, even just 2 seasons later, look at how low they are. And as they put on the leaves for the season, they tend to droop down, and then that creates a little bit of reaction wood. That's a Kansas peony variety. By the way, look at that. Beautiful deep pink. Okay, we've got about, I'm going to say there's about 3 main branches in here that we are going to take out. You can see there's an old scar from that other video. And now we're going to take out this one here and just kind of work our way around. Same concept. Over time, you just start lifting up those lower branches as trees age. So I'd say there's about 5 or 6, and then maybe just a little bit of the lower dead wood in there. We'll get that removed as well. Yeah, just removing just a few of these main lower ones is really going to change the look and feel and character of this area. If it becomes a bigger branch, you want to make sure you cut that branch out a little further to release the pressure. That way when it falls, it doesn't tear down further in. But what this is going to do for us is as we walk around the front corner of our house and come into our back landscape and gardens, having those branches lifted up, you can already see that you immediately get a taste of all the different varieties of plants. Let's go back to our original starting point, show you the before and after, just how much it's lifted up, really giving those perennials underneath a lot more room. And I just love the ability now to be able to see through the other things going on in the gardens. Really makes a difference lifting up those lower branches. And straight ahead there is a hoops blue spruce. I hesitated quite a while to do that pruning job, but I'm happy with how it turned out. Normally with the spruce and pines, I'm almost always going to opt for their natural form, keeping those lower branches draping near the ground. But it was just too close to the other plants, so I decided to prune them up. And I like how it turned out. But I'm not going to make a habit of it, except for this big Bera white spruce. Yeah, I had this planted in one of my conifer gardens with the southern exposure, and it burned up 2 winters in a row. Can't believe it. There's another one just a couple miles from me. It looks beautiful. Anyway, I decided to transplant it to this location where it seemed to be doing a little bit better, but then one spring the branches were, they were dead almost all the way to the top. So why not? It's just kind of in an out-of-the-way location, just for fun. Makes me laugh actually when I walk by. So that's one for the Dr. Seuss collection there. And back to our hoops blue spruce, just to the left, we have a Prairie torch Buckeye, and it's sandwiched in between that hoops and these tailored junipers. For today, I'm just going to prune up some of the lower branches, but eventually I'm likely going to have to start pruning some of the terminal branches. And well, you know what? Keep this smaller. It's just going to get too big for this location. I'll likely also expose those inner branches similar to what we started doing on the Japanese tree lilacs. Since it's planted too close to these other trees, I'll have some fun, experiment with it. See if I can keep this a little bit smaller, unique, and at the same time shooting for kind of a bonsai effect. Hopefully not that Dr. Seuss effect though. But what a great medium-sized tree, many interesting characteristics on the Buckeyes. And wow, look at the fall color we get on this one. Just one to go here, and then we're going to get after our next tree, a great one, the Prairie Horizon Alder. This is a fast grower. It becomes shrubby quickly. That new growth, it's a soft wood, bends down rapidly, so this is going to be an annual event now, keeping those lower limbs trimmed up. Got another situation here of a crossing branch. Right in here, you can see those two crossing, rubbing up against each other, and that's just going to lead to more problems down the road, not only at that point, but then up in here, you can see it's going to interfere again. It just creates that wound. It doesn't mean the tree won't live a long time like that, but eventually it can kill that branch. If you love trees, shrubs, plants in general, you never stop noticing some of the interesting things. You never stop learning. Look at how dark that wood is in there. Never really knew that before. Then you go up a little bit higher here. And that one's actually kind of more on the white side. So maybe as the tree matures, the trunk gets bigger, you get that nice dark coloration. Man, I wish that would just stay like that. Okay, let's move on to Canada Red Cherry. This is one of the choke cherry varieties. Leaves out kind of a green, and then you're going to get into that purple. That's mostly what it's sold for, that purple leaf color during the main part of the growing season, but it's a fast grower, great for birds, wildlife, since it has these abundant fruits. But if you try to eat them fresh, they're going to choke you, hence the name choke cherry. But they're great for making jams, jellies, just don't forget the sugar. A couple serious drawbacks to the tree is its susceptibility to this black knot fungus. It's pretty common on almost every choke cherry I've come across, and it doesn't necessarily kill the tree, but it's really unsightly to look at, especially in the winter months. It's also got an aggressive suckering habit, not only near the base of the tree, but they can emerge a pretty good distance away from the tree, in your lawn, mulch beds. Personally, I don't mind the drawbacks, but it's not for every location, that's for sure. You can certainly let it exist as a shrubby tree, especially out in the wild if you're using it to support wildlife. But for this location, I'm going to be keeping those lower branches pruned up each season now due to its fast growth rate. And right behind us here, I've got several flame amur maples. I pruned those lower branches up a year ago, maybe 2 years ago now, and it's pretty easy to keep them in check if you spend just a little time each year, removing those smaller sprouts that are going to come back continually. Sometimes you can get away with just brushing down and they'll just snap right off. This is another great tree if you're looking for that multi-trunk look with good branching structure. The flame amur has excellent fall color as one of the shorter maple trees, but does have abundant seed, so it can be considered invasive in certain areas. I love it because of that fall color, its drought tolerance, and the hardiness for our area. It tends to have a little bit wider growth habit than tall, getting into that 20 to 25 foot wide. Boy, I tell you what, it doesn't seem that long ago that I just planted most of these trees we looked at today, but eventually they're all going to start needing some maintenance, but man, is it ever worth it. If you're interested in some of the other videos I mentioned, they'll be listed in that description box below. That's all for now. Thanks for stopping by Garden Hike. I'll see you again soon, next video.